President Yoon Suk-yeol is on a state visit to Manila and headed into a bilateral summit with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. They're expected to emerge from their meeting to observe the signing of MOUs to facilitate close economic cooperation before delivering a joint press statement. We'll bring you the scenes to you live. And as we wait, joining me now is our presidential correspondent, Oh Seong. It's good to have you back. Seong.
Always happy to be here with you, Tammy.
So now that we know that the two leaders will have discussed economic cooperation as the core agenda of Yoon's visit there, what kind of deals can we expect to come out of the summit?
Sure. So they're going to be concluding their talks with a list of MOUs that are going to be signed before them, as you said, Tammy. And well, last year we saw them actually set the foundational framework for stronger economic cooperation when they signed the free trade agreement in Jakarta last year, which of course was hosting ASEAN 2023. But what's different about the deals today is that they will aim to specify the areas of focus and deepen the relationship beyond merely being merely trade partners to going on better terms. So they're going to be focusing on very specific areas such as infrastructure and energy, nuclear energy, agriculture, all these different areas for shared growth and prosperity. So following the summit, the two leaders will oversee the signing of such MOUs, and we can expect them to cover a wide range of areas as mentioned. And both governments have, of course, spent months and months preparing for these deals. So we can expect the outcome to be announced by the leaders very shortly. So that would obviously set the stage for a stronger partnership. Now, the two countries aren't major trading partners yet. Of course, there is some trade volume between them, but the Philippines was Seoul's 18th largest trading partner in 2021, behind the likes of Vietnam, Singapore, and Indonesia. And trade volume between the countries came to $13.7 billion last year, with some 300 South Korean companies operating in the Philippines.
So a lot to cover, but it looks like infrastructure will take up a huge part of the summit between the two leaders. Now, what kind of deals in infrastructure? Walk us through the deals that are expected to come out.
Right. So the Philippines are under President Marcos. They're rolling out this massive infrastructure program called Build Better More Initiative, which is designed to modernize the country's transportation networks. So this includes building new highways and electric buses, expanding airports, and enhancing seaport capabilities. And these are, of course, all areas where South Korea has considerable experience. So South Korea will hope to see its firms secure major contracts in such projects, and perhaps we'll see some in the business summit later today. However, the government itself, it will be focusing on the MOUs to foster the regulatory and institutional environment for these business partnerships to be made. So Seoul could demonstrate then its role and also developmental experience over the decades to show how the Philippines could modernize its infrastructure to make it more efficient and also better equipped to support its rapid economic growth. So the two countries could also discuss cooperating in developing renewable energy infrastructure, for instance, and that's, of course, another critical need for the Philippines.
Definitely. Then what about energy cooperation? Speaking of energy, both countries are really committed to growth and carbon neutrality.
That's right, Tammy. So actually all eyes are on what could possibly come out in terms of energy cooperation and nuclear energy cooperation, to be specific. So the Philippines, of course, is a rapidly growing economy, and as much as they are the fastest growing economy in the ASEAN bloc, they have a lot of demand for energy as well. So that's where South Korea could possibly step in, and it seems that they are reviewing ways to foster nuclear energy cooperation, something that South Korea is very adept at doing, very experienced as Korea Hydro and Electric Power. As you know, it's signed it's looking to procure nuclear deals with the Czech Republic as well. So that's where South Korea could possibly step in. We'll have to wait and see, of course. But yes, that's something that South Korea could indeed provide for the Philippines.
Well, a lot of experts are saying that this summit will be a stepping stone for a win-win situation for both Seoul and Manila. What about in natural resources? We all know Manila, is rich in core minerals like, cobalt.
Yeah, that's true. And those kind of core minerals, they're vital for South Korea's electronics and all these digital sectors that we talk about so much today. Basically, it's the lifeblood of basically all of Korea's cash cows, right?
Definitely.
So the Philippines being one of the world's largest producers of materials like nickel and cobalt, which are, of course, essential for electric vehicle batteries as well, and South Korea being a leading global producer of EV batteries. Seoul is very keen to secure stable supplies of these minerals, and that's where we may see more deals or cooperation today on securing supply chains for these vital resources, giving South Korea the access to the resources it really needs to maintain its competitive edge in advanced industries.
Right, so core minerals for South Korea, and also at the same time, Manila is looking to develop more of its infrastructure, like you mentioned. But what about in the field of agriculture? What is there to discuss?
Right, so the Philippines is looking for food security, and it also has growing demand for food needs as well. And since 2018, when the two countries forged an MOU on agricultural cooperation, the two countries have been working on smart farming and smart technology for agricultural technology for greater productivity in terms of agriculture. But they're looking to deepen that relationship. So they're going to try and specify more on how they can really operate together and develop more technology together so that the Philippines can stand on its own when it comes to producing food and distributing it as well.
Well, given the scale of all these, agreements and also fields of cooperation, it looks like the visit will really be a stepping stone for the turning point for the Seoul-Manila relations, right?
Absolutely, Tammy. So it's perfect timing, really, because this year, 2024, marks the 75th anniversary of bilateral relations. Right. So it is indeed a very significant year. And of course, the Philippines is one of the vital members of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, which is marking 35 years of dialogue relations with Seoul this year as well. And of course, Seoul is looking to deepen that partnership, and it's expected that Seoul and ASEAN will be elevating their ties to the highest level, which is a comprehensive strategic partnership. So we may see that in the coming days. But in order to do that, really, South Korea needs to expand its relations and really bolster its individual relations with each ASEAN member country. That, of course, includes the Philippines, which together with other ASEAN countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, they all make up around 91% of ASEAN's trade and economic growth. So that's why South Korea really needs to needs to get its teeth into these growing industries so that it has a future and a certain foothold in these very fast-growing industries.
Definitely, a lot to be discovered in the Philippines. Now, what about the political significance of the Philippines? What does that mean to us, South Korea?
Right, so the political significance, as mentioned, of course, the Philippines is a crucial partner for South Korea. They both have shared interests in the region as well. They're both Indo-Pacific countries, both allies of the United States. And therefore, they want to see a free and prosperous region. Both of them being trading nations, the Indo-Pacific region sees more than 50% of the world's trade pass through its waters. It accounts for around 60% of the world's GDP. And what's vital is that the seas are remaining open to trade, and there is no coercion in the waters, and there is no economic coercion rather. So with all these territorial disputes popping up, and of course the nuclear threat from North Korea, and also growing friction, rivalry between the United States and China, there's growing regional tension, and both countries, South Korea and the Philippines, do not want escalation in any way. So they are not trying to escalate, but they would like to strengthen their maritime cooperation as well, just to keep the waters secure, to keep safety. So they'll be looking to increase, I would imagine, maritime patrols and making sure that the ports are safe and that there's no illegal activities being conducted across the waters.
Right, and considering the regional closeness of Seoul and Manila, of course, security issues are crucial for the Philippines as well when it comes to, developing nuclear threats coming from the north.
Right, sure. So President Yoon, for sure, I would imagine he would be discussing the growing threat from North Korea's continued provocations in the sense of, nuclear weapons, also its other weapons of mass destruction. And that's something that he's been emphasizing before his trip began as well. He's going to be really highlighting the need for North Korea's denuclearization in order for the entire Indo-Pacific region to be free, to be stable, to be prosperous. Because with a nuclear North Korea, there is no way that these countries can trade stably or, they cannot, we need to ensure that there is no threatening neighbor, not just in terms of East Asia, but also across Southeast Asia, because North Korea's illegal activities are being conducted across these waters, and thus that's something that they would want to prevent. And also President Yoon will be emphasizing his unification doctrine, which he introduced on August 15th of this year. So his vision is that the two countries unify peacefully, not through coercion, of course, but this is going to be a rather grassroots approach. So South Korea won't be enforcing unification on North Korea, but rather they would be, Seoul will be empowering North Koreans, reminding them of their human rights and making them want a prosperous nation, brighter prospects for themselves. And that's something that, no country would be able to dispute. So
quite different.
Exactly. So he's going to be highlighting his unification doctrine in the Philippines, I would imagine, also in Singapore, where he is due next, and of course at the ASEAN summit. So security, yes, as you said, is going to be one of the core agendas, I would imagine, coming out of the summit.
Right, and the Philippines has been vocal about, keeping peace in the regional peace, not just on the Korean Peninsula, but also in the South China Sea. For example, for North Korea, back in 2017, Philippines was determined to, minimize its diplomatic relations with North Korea over its, evolving nuclear and missile threats. So that's how active the Philippines has been when it comes to keeping peace, regional peace.
Right, they have a lot of common interests.
May we invite the members of the Philippine and ROK delegations to take their seats.
양국 대표단 모두 착석해 주시기 바랍니다.
May we invite President Marcos and President Yoon to witness the exchange of the signed Memorandum of Understanding between the National Economic and Development Authority and the Ministry of Economy and Finance of the Republic of Korea on the Economic Innovation Partnership Program. May we invite the Honorable Arsenio M. Balisacan, Secretary of the National Economic and Development Authority, and Honorable Choi Sang-mok, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Economy and Finance.
So I guess the MOU signing is going on, and as mentioned before, they're going to be, I would imagine, covering infrastructure, energy, agriculture, and possibly nuclear energy. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, there's probably going to be a lot to talk about.
Definitely. So like you said, infrastructure, we have to talk about the BBM project when it comes to, the Philippines. Tell us more about that.
Right, so the BBM project, I'm afraid I'm not being a Philippines expert, I'm not, too informed about this, but it is very well known that President Marcos Ferdinand Jr. is pushing for fast development of highways, transportation networks. That would include things like, better airports, also electric buses and road construction as well, bridges, all sorts of things. And South Korea, of course, we went through a very rapid modernization process, and that, of course, included our highways and transportation networks that enabled the fast economic growth that we've seen over the last 30 or so years. So South Korea would have a wealth of knowledge and experience to share with the Philippines, and its companies too, of course. They would be very actively involved in these projects should the two governments agree to cooperate on national infrastructure. So that's what we're expecting to see, and hopefully it will happen.
Right, so many know-hows to offer to the Philippines, especially where it needs so many developments and infrastructure. But also, an economic delegation has tagged along with President Yoon Suk-yeol again this time. Now, what kind of economic business cooperation can we expect from the visit?
Right, so it doesn't take just a couple of government deals to foster economic cooperation, right? You need active players on each side from the private sector. And of course, President Yoon has been taking huge economic delegations with him around the world.
Right.
And it's the same for the Philippines. We're going to see representatives, I would imagine, from the 4 major chaebol or conglomerate companies like Samsung. They're going to be very interested and keen to see what kind of opportunities they have to work with the Philippines and tapping into its talent pool, tapping into its manufacturing. But in order to support a greater kind of vision that President Yoon would have in terms of strengthening economic cooperation with the Philippines, I would imagine there are some companies related to infrastructure as well. And as the two sides are very keen to foster these exchanges between government and the private sector, they'll be looking to increase maybe the number of flights between the two countries as well. So we could maybe see deals related to that. And all sorts of deals, really, that would really smoothen, it would pave the way for businesses to actually be able to work together. Because as you know, when we talk to most businesses, they always run into red tape and, just the process itself, the paperwork. Those are the biggest,
we all
bottlenecks.
know the struggle.
Exactly. So that's what they're going to look to minimize, I would imagine. And the companies, I'm sure, they might get very technical. It's not really, for enjoyable reading, but I'm sure, in the months to come, we'll see some very fruitful outcomes coming out of that.
Definitely, and also tourism. Seoul and Manila, they both have such popular tourist spots for each country. So many people coming in and out of those countries. So that should be also another exciting point to look forward to. Now, Soo-young, before I let you go, what would you say will be the highlights of the deals that the two leaders are expecting to secure today?
Well, the highlights, we'll have to see, of course, but I imagine once again in infrastructure and hopefully energy, because that's one area that South Korea is keen to expand on and an area that the Philippines really needs to foster in order to be able to continue to support its rapid economic development. So energy is also what we're looking at. Also agriculture, as you mentioned before, because food security for the Philippines is very important. And South Korea also has a lot of technology that it can share as well when it comes to agri-farming and agri-technology. They've already been working on smart farming, as mentioned before, but of course, it seems that the Philippine side is very keen to expand on that. So that's something that we're hoping to see. Also, defense cooperation, as you mentioned, security is a big factor for the region. And South Korea, there's been some demand from ASEAN countries for South Korea to play a greater role in the region, especially in maritime matters. So that's where we might see more elaboration there.
Well, after the signing ceremony and the joint state press conference, what's next on President Yoon's agenda?
Well, President Yoon, he's going to head to a business summit, and I'm expecting that there'll be at least more than 150, maybe 200 corporate leaders attending that session, and they'll be striking up their own deals, presumably, hopefully. So we'll probably see more elaboration on the government deals that the two leaders are overseeing the signing of, as the businesses that are attending the summit, they'll have their own agendas and their own area of interest in terms of how they want to really specify the relationship.
Right, and it's not just the Philippines that he's visiting. It'll be a 3-nation tour in Southeast Asia. Anything to note about his Singapore visit?
Well, his Singapore visit will also be heavily economics focused, very business focused. So Singapore, as we all know, is a financial capital of Asia. It's very well known for innovation, and it's highly educated and talented pool of people. So South Korea will, obviously it makes sense for South Korea, also a very innovative economy, to partner with the likes of Singapore so that they can really advance in tech industries such as AI, maybe quantum computing, all these future sectors that involve a lot of investment and a lot of skill and knowledge. So they're perfect partners to do that. So I'm sure that's what President Yoon will be looking to promote while he is there. And of course, on the political side of things, he also wants to, again, push forward his unification doctrine and his vision for peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific. So he's actually going to give a lecture at one of Singapore's most influential think tanks, and it will also be focused on his vision for a unified Korean peninsula and security implications for the entire region.
His Excellency Yoon Suk-yeol, President of the Republic of Korea, esteemed ministers and officials of the Philippines and the Republic of Korea, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor to welcome His Excellency Yoon Suk-yeol, President of the Republic of Korea, to the Malacañang Palace today.
윤석열 대통령님 그리고 귀빈 여러분, 오늘 말라카난 대통령궁에서 윤 대통령님을 뵙게 되어 매우 영광입니다.
It was with great pleasure that we learned that President Yoon accepted my invitation for a state visit. I know that it has been more than a decade since the Philippines welcomed a bilateral visit of a Korean president, the last being in 2011.
윤 대통령께서 필리핀 국빈 방문 제안을 수락해 주셔서 매우 기뻤습니다. 한국 대통령의 필리핀 방문은 2011년을 마지막으로 13년 만에 이루어진 것입니다.
President Yoon's visit marks an important milestone in our bilateral relations with the Republic of Korea. This year, we celebrate our 75th anniversary of the diplomatic ties between our two countries. Those ties have been enriched and strengthened by moments of solidarity, including during the Korean War of 1950, through the deployment of the Philippine Expeditionary Forces to Korea, the first international contingent of the Philippines. Our decades of cordial relations have developed into a comprehensive partnership that spans political, defense, economic, socio-cultural, maritime, and many other fields across various levels of engagement.
윤 대통령님의 방문은 양자 관계에 있어서 중요한 포석입니다. 올해 양국은 수교 75주년을 맞이했습니다. 양국 관계는 1950년 한국전에 외국군으로서는 최초로 필리핀 병사들의 파병으로 시작된 연대에 기반하여 강화되어 왔습니다. 수십 년간의 오래된 양국 관계는 정치, 국방, 경제, 사회, 문화, 해양 등 다양한 분야를 포괄하는 포괄적 전략 동반자 관계로 발전해 있습니다.
And today, I am pleased to announce that the Philippines and the Republic of Korea have formally elevated our relations to a strategic partnership, adding further impetus to the strengthening and deepening of our cooperation in an increasingly complex geopolitical and economic environment.
오늘 필리핀과 대한민국은 공식적으로 양국 관계를 전략적 동반자 관계로 격상했습니다. 이는 계속 복잡해지는 지정학적, 경제적 환경 속에서 양국 관계를 보다 강화하고 심화시켜 나갈 것입니다.
During our fruitful bilateral meetings, President Yoon and I covered several areas of cooperation, including defense and security, maritime cooperation, economic and development cooperation, and people-to-people exchanges. We agreed that we have made significant strides in advancing and deepening our bilateral cooperation towards the attainment of our mutually beneficial goals.
윤 대통령님과 저는 심도 있는 회담을 통해서 국방, 안보, 해양 협력, 경제, 개발, 인적 교류 등 여러 이슈를 논의했습니다. 우리는 양국이 공동 목표를 달성하는 데 있어서 양국 관계에 상당한 진전이 있었다는 데 동의했습니다.
President Yoon and I likewise exchanged views on regional and international issues such as the West Philippine Sea and in the Korean Peninsula. I welcome the Republic of Korea's efforts to promote peace and stability in the Korean Peninsula. The audacious initiative and the August 15 Unification Doctrine are important efforts in this regard.
우리는 또한 서필리핀 해 또는 남중국 해 및 한반도 등 지역 국제 문제도 논의했습니다. 필리핀은 한반도 평화와 안보를 증진하기 위한 한국의 노력을 환영합니다. 이와 관련하여 담대한 구상과 8.15 통일 독트린은 매우 중요한 노력입니다.
We acknowledge the efforts of both sides to enhance bilateral trade, and we now look forward to implementing our free trade agreement. That has been ratified and concurred to by the Philippine Senate. In addition, we recognize our cooperation within ASEAN and the Republic of Korea's initiatives, such as the ASEAN +3 Emergency Rice Reserve, or APTER, that also benefited ASEAN member states, including the Philippines.
윤 대통령님과 저는 양자 교역을 강화하기 위해 노력할 것과 한필 FTA 이행을 위해 노력하기로 했습니다. 필리핀 의회는 최근 한필 FTA를 승인하였습니다. 더불어 우리는 아세안 차원의 협력과 필리핀을 포함한 아세안 회원국에게 도움을 주는 아세안 플러스 3 비상 쌀 비축제와 같은 한국의 이니셔티브에 주목했습니다.
So as we conclude this morning's activities, it's my pleasure to announce that we have signed the following key agreements that will propel the momentum of our strategic partnership in the decades to come.
양국은 향후 수십 년간 양국 간 전략적 동반자 관계 모멘텀을 지속시켜 나가기 위한 여러 합의문에 서명했습니다.
To strengthen understanding, mutual trust and confidence, and for the purpose of the promotion, preservation, and protection of our mutual maritime interests, including maritime order and safety in the Asia-Pacific region, we have signed a Memorandum of Understanding between the Philippine Coast Guard and the Korean Coast Guard on maritime cooperation.
아태 지역 해양 질서 및 안보를 포함한 공동의 해양 이익을 보존 증진하고 상호 이해와 신뢰를 강화하기 위해 한국 해경과 필리핀 해경 간 해양 협력에 관한 양해각서에 서명하였습니다.
We have also signed the Memorandum of Understanding on the Economic Innovation Partnership Program. This establishes a framework for cooperation between our countries for the advancement of national, regional, and urban development in the Philippines.
필리핀 국가, 지역, 도시 개발을 위한 양국 간 협력 체계를 마련하기 위해 경제 혁신 파트너십 양해각서에 서명했습니다.
To promote cooperation in the establishment of supply chains for critical raw materials in our two countries, we have signed a Memorandum of Understanding for strategic cooperation on critical raw material supply chains.
양국 간 원자재 공급망 관련 협력을 증진하기 위해 원자재 공급망 관련 양해각서를 서명했습니다.
And in view of the Republic of Korea's successful experience in the nuclear industry, we have also signed the Memorandum of Understanding on the feasibility study of Bataan Nuclear Power Plant. This will carry out a thorough feasibility study to continue progress on the BNPP rehabilitation, which we envision to contribute to energy security in the country.
원자력 분야 한국의 성공담에 기초하여 바탄 원전 재개를 위한 타당성 조사 관련 양해각서에 서명했습니다. 이를 통해 바탄 원전 재개 관련 면밀한 타당성 조사를 시행하여 필리핀 에너지 안보에 기여할 것입니다.
As we continue to strengthen our infrastructure and development cooperation, we have signed the loan agreement on Samar Coastal Road 2 project and the Memorandum of Understanding on the Laguna Lakeshore Road Network project, Phase 1, and the Panay-Guimaras Negros Island Bridges project.
양국 간 인프라 개발 협력 강화 차원에서 사마르 해안도로 건설 및 라구나 호수 순환도로 그리고 PGN 해상 교량 건설 사업 관련 양해각서에 서명했습니다.
And finally, to strengthen and continue promoting bilateral tourism cooperation, we have signed the implementation program of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Department of Tourism and the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism of the Republic of Korea for 2024 to 2029.
마지막으로 양국 간 관광 협력을 증진하기 위해 양국 관광부 간 관광 협력 양해각서 2024-29 이행 계획에 서명하였습니다.
Allow me to express once again my heartfelt thanks to President Yoon and his delegation for this very fruitful visit. Thank you very much.
다시 한번 대통령님의 방문을 진심으로 환영합니다. 감사합니다.
마르코스 대통령님, 필리핀 국민 여러분 반갑습니다. 올해 한국과 필리핀의 수교 75주년을 맞이해서 아세안의 한국의 핵심 우방인 필리핀을 국빈 방문하게 돼서 매우 기쁘게 생각합니다.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, I am immensely honored and privileged to make this state visit to the Philippines, a core partner of the Republic of Korea in the ASEAN, especially in this momentous year as we celebrate the 75th anniversary of our diplomatic relations.
네, 필리핀은 75년 전 동남아 국가 중에 최초로 대한민국과 외교 관계를 수립한 나라입니다. 6.25 전쟁 때는 아시아에서 가장 많은 규모의 병력을 파견해준 대한민국의 고마운 친구의 나라입니다.
75 years ago, the Philippines became the first nation in Southeast Asia to establish diplomatic relations with the Republic of Korea. During the Korean War, the Philippines deployed the largest contingent of troops among Asian nations in defense of the Republic of Korea, for which the Korean people remain deeply grateful as a true friendship.
그동안 양국 관계의 발전은 이처럼 피로 맺은 우정의 기초를 둔 것입니다. 저는 이번 방문을 통해 필리핀이 마르코스 대통령님의 지도력 하에 역동적으로 발전하고 있으며 양국 관계가 무한한 발전 가능성을 가지고 있음을 확인했습니다. 오늘 저와 마르코스 대통령님은 양국 간 전략적 동반자 관계를 수립하여 한국과 필리핀의 관계에 새로운 장을 열었습니다.
The progress we've made so far in our bilateral relations was based on the trust and sense of solidarity forged in blood. Through my visit to Manila, I saw firsthand the ongoing dynamic development of this great nation under the leadership of President Marcos Jr. I also witnessed the infinite potential of Korea-Philippines relations. Today, President Marcos and I opened a new chapter of our partnership by elevating our relationship to a strategic partnership.
오늘 회담의 주요 성과와 합의 사항에 대해 말씀드리겠습니다. 첫째, 양국은 안보 분야에서 전략적 협력을 강화해 나가기로 했습니다. 우리 두 정상은 방산 협력을 강화하기로 했으며 특히 필리핀의 군 현대화 3단계 사업에 한국이 적극 참여해 나가기로 했습니다. 또한 우리 두 정상은 오늘 체결된 해양협력 MOU를 통해 해상 초국가 범죄 대응, 정보 교환, 수색 구조와 같은 해양 안보 협력도 강화할 것입니다.
Let me briefly outline the major outcomes and agreements of today's meeting. First, our two countries concurred to strengthen strategic partnership in the security front. We agreed to enhance our cooperation in the defense industry. In particular, Korea will actively take part in the Re-Horizon 3 phase of the modernization of the AFP. Also, based on the MOU on maritime cooperation signed today, our two countries will reinforce maritime security partnership in such areas as tackling transnational crime, information sharing, and conducting search and rescue missions.
둘째, 마르코스 대통령님과 저는 양국 간 경제 협력을 한층 활성화해 양국 국민들에게 혜택이 돌아가는 실질 협력을 추진하기로 했습니다. 이를 위해 작년 9월 서명된 한 필리핀 FTA를 조속히 발효시켜 양국의 무역과 투자를 촉진할 것입니다. 양국 정부는 라구나 호수 순환도로와 PGN 해상교량 건설 사업에 대한 MOU를 체결하고 해당 사업들을 한국의 EDCF를 활용하여 추진하기로 했습니다. 이 두 사업은 지원 규모가 각각 10억 불 상당으로 대외경제협력기금 EDCF 사업 기준 역대 1, 2위의 대형 개발협력 사업이며 한국 기업들이 중추적인 역할을 할 것입니다. 아울러 양국은 필리핀이 추진 중인 여러 인프라 사업에 세계적인 경험과 역량을 갖춘 한국 기업들의 참여를 확대해 나아가기로 했습니다. 또한 우리 두 정상은 농업 분야의 협력을 확대하여 식량 안보를 함께 강화해 나아갈 필요가 있다는 데 공감하고 필리핀 내 한국 농기계 생산 단지도 조성해 나가기로 했습니다.
Second, President Marcos and I agreed to work together in order to deliver tangible benefits to the citizens of both countries by stepping up our economic cooperation. To this end, we have committed to bringing Korea-Philippines FTA signed in September last year into force at the earliest date possible, which will boost trade and investment between our two nations. Our two governments also concluded the MOU on the Laguna Lakeshore Road Network Project Phase 1 and the PGN Island Bridges projects and agreed to utilize Korea's EDCF funding for these projects. The amount of allocated EDCF funding for the mentioned two projects will be the two largest ever projects in the history of the EDCF. Korean companies will play a major role in the projects as well. Our two countries also agreed to expand the participation of Korean firms in other infrastructure projects in the Philippines as they possess world-class experience and capabilities. President Marcos and I both agreed in the importance of food security, and in this regard, we agreed to form a Korea agricultural machinery production complex as soon as possible.
셋째, 우리 두 정상은 에너지, 디지털 전환 같은 미래지향적인 분야로 협력의 지평을 확대하고 지속 가능한 성장 동력을 확충해 나가기로 했습니다. 우리 두 정상은 무탄소 에너지원으로서 원전의 중요성에 주목하고 이번 바탄 원전 재개 타당성 조사 MOU 체결을 계기로 양국 간 원전 협력 기반을 강화하기로 했습니다. 한국은 디지털 선도국으로서 공공행정 부문 디지털화를 비롯한 필리핀의 디지털 전환도 적극 지원하기로 했습니다.
Third, President Marcos and I have committed to broadening our future-oriented cooperation in areas like energy and digital transformation and to expanding engines for sustainable growth. We took note of the importance of nuclear power as a carbon-free energy source and agreed to lay the foundation for nuclear energy cooperation, building on the conclusion of the MOU on feasibility study for the Bataan nuclear power plant. And as a leader in the digital technology industry, the Republic of Korea will actively support the digital transformation of the Philippines, including the digitalization of Filipino public administration services.
넷째, 우리 두 정상은 양국 국민들의 안전하고 생산성 있는 인적 교류를 뒷받침해 나가기로 했습니다. 지난해 필리핀을 가장 많이 찾은 외국인은 한국인이었습니다. 145만 명이 찾았습니다. 2004년부터 지금까지 총 9만 7천여 명의 필리핀 근로자들이 한국에서 근무해 왔습니다. 마르코스 대통령님과 저는 이와 같은 양국 간의 상호 교류가 양국 우호 협력의 든든한 기반이라는 데 공감하고 인적 교류 확대를 위해 함께 노력해 나가는 한편 양국 국민들의 권익과 안전을 강화해 나가기로 했습니다.
Fourth, we agreed to support safe and productive people-to-people exchanges. Last year, Korean tourists accounted for the largest share of foreign visitors to the Philippines, reaching around 1.45 million visitors. And since 2004, approximately 97,000 Filipino workers have come to Korea so far. President Marcos and I affirmed our common understanding that close people-to-people exchanges serve as a solid foundation of our friendly cooperation and agreed to put joint efforts to promote further exchanges between the people of our two countries while protecting the rights and safety of each other's citizens residing in our respective nations.
다섯째, 우리 두 정상은 지역 및 국제 문제에 대해 폭넓게 의견을 교환했습니다. 규칙 기반 국제 질서를 수호하기 위한 전략적 협력을 강화해 나아가기로 의견을 모았습니다. 대한민국과 자유, 인권, 법치의 가치를 공유하는 필리핀은 우리 정부의 한 아세안 연대 구상과 인태 전략의 이행에 있어서도 핵심적인 협력 대상국입니다. 우리 두 정상은 북한의 핵 개발과 무모한 도발 그리고 불법적인 러북 군사 협력을 국제사회가 결코 용인하지 않을 것임을 재확인하고 앞으로도 북한의 비핵화와 안보리 결의의 충실한 이행을 위해 계속 협력하기로 했습니다. 마르코스 대통령께서는 우리의 8.15 통일 독트린에 대한 지지를 표명하셨으며 자유, 평화, 번영의 통일 한반도가 세계 평화와 번영에 기여하리라는 점에 대해 의견을 같이 했습니다. 우리 두 정상은 영내 핵심 해상 교통로인 남중국해의 평화, 안전의 중요성에 대해서도 공감했습니다. 이러한 차원에서 양국은 남중국 해상 규칙에 기반한 해양 질서의 확립과 국제법 원칙에 따른 항행 및 상공 비행의 자유를 위해 계속 협력해 나아가기로 했습니다.
Fifth, we, the two leaders, exchanged views on a wide range of issues in the region and across the globe and agreed to strengthen strategic cooperation in a bid to uphold the rules-based international order. The Philippines, who shares common values of freedom, human rights, and the rule of law with Korea, is a key partner in the implementation of Korea-ASEAN Solidarity Initiative and Korea's Indo-Pacific strategy. Also, President Marcos and I reaffirmed that the international community will never condone North Korea's nuclear programs and its reckless provocations, as well as its illegitimate military cooperation with Russia. And going forward, we agreed to keep working together with each other for the enforcement of relevant UN Security Council resolutions. We also shared a common understanding. President Marcos expressed his support for the August 15 Unification Doctrine, and we both agreed that a free, peaceful, and prosperous unified Korean Peninsula will bring more peace and prosperity to the world. We shared a common understanding about the importance of peace, stability, and safety in the South China Sea, which is a critical sea lane of communications in the region. In this regard, our two countries will continue to work together in order to establish a rules-based maritime order and for the freedom of navigation and overflight pursuant to the principles of the international law in the South China Sea.
우리 두 정상은 오늘 수립한 전략적 동반자 관계의 공동 비전을 바탕으로 긴밀한 협력과 연대를 강화해 나갈 것입니다. 마르코스 대통령님과 필리핀 국민들의 초청과 환대에 다시 한번 깊이 감사드립니다. 감사합니다.
Based on our shared vision as strategic partners, we will foster closer cooperation and stand in stronger solidarity moving forward. I once again would like to thank you, Mr. President, and the people of the Philippines for your kind invitation and warm hospitality. Thank you very much.
Excellencies.
Well, it looks like Yoon's visit will surely mark a new chapter of Seoul-Manila ties, with the two countries looking to broaden their cooperation across various sectors, right?
That's right, Tammy. Very exciting stuff indeed.
Alrighty, Seong, thank you so much for breaking this down with us today.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Tammy.
And we also thank you for watching our live coverage of the press conference of the two leaders of Seoul and Manila. If you missed it, you can still catch the highlights at our upcoming newscast at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.